All right, good to see everybody. We'll just go through the normal format. Again, just reviewing team status. Not much change, which is probably as good of news as I can give you. Offensive line, pretty healthy there. Tina Arrow did travel with us last week. He practiced the entire week at the left guard position, so he is an individual that could contribute more here down the stretch. Last week was his first full week of activity for us. And then at the tight end position, Adam Feeney has kind of had it's not a cast, but it's a big pad on his hand. Hopefully we'll be able to downsize that this week, which will allow him to be more of an effective passing target for us. Fullbacks are healthy. The receiving core, everything is same there, as is the tailbacks and as is the quarterbacks. So offensively came through the game healthy. Defensively, defensive line will remain the same. Linebacker core, both inside, outside, everything remains the same, as does the secondary with the depth. So it was a good week as far as coming out of the game healthy, so we feel positive there. In the special teams, both kickers will be available. As far as who will be kicking the field goals, PAT, that will probably be a game time decision. I want both of those guys ready to go and ready to compete. So working there. All other aspects of special teams will remain the same. Injury report, nothing new. So basically, Victor Craven was one that I did take off of this list. He has returned to practice also on the offensive line. Our schedule this week, we'll do a normal schedule, practicing at Salukis Stadium on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and really nothing changes. Our Friday routine will be the same, just kind of wrapping things up at Salukis Stadium, and then naturally with game time being at 6:05, we try to occupy the players the best we can during the course of the day, just to keep them up and moving around. So we have different things scheduled for them on the course of Saturday, but that is our schedule for the week. Okay, early on, this is a slide that I showed the team yesterday. It's a start, and that's kind of the message to the guys is we're sitting 1-0, and it's a good spot to be at this point in time, but it's not where you want to stay, and the challenges are still in front of us. So we have to make sure we come out this week ready to prepare and get ready for a very good Indiana State football team. And looking at the Indiana State, their season, they're sitting at 2-2. I think they're a very good football team. I think this past weekend was kind of a matchup of two teams that were very similar, and South Dakota State just ended up making a couple more plays than what Indiana State did. Therefore, they came away with the win, which it was an impressive win for South Dakota State. But you look at the previous three games that Indiana State played, a very impressive performance against Indiana, the convincing win against Quincy, which was expected. And then Drake University was a team that had played Montana State very tough, and they played a very dominating game against Drake University. So those are the four games that we're evaluating, and just a little personality of Indiana State. Offensively, you look at their stats, they're about 50-50 with the run and pass. Now they have the capabilities of doing both. Their choice, they want to run the football. They will use the tight ends. They will use a fullback. So if they can hammer it at you, that would be their first choice. They probably got the best running back in the country in Bell. He can make plays. He can't help but compare him to Larry Warner when Larry played here. Just a guy that you try to bottle him up the best you can, but he's capable of making plays on his own. he's good. They do have a new quarterback. I've been impressed with their new quarterback. He's about 60% completion right now, but he is capable of throwing the ball around the field. I think he has some good receivers that are capable of catching a lot of different types of pass, capable of going deep on you. They have some big play potential. Offensive line, they probably have one of the best centers in the league in Borchers. He received a national honor earlier in the week. He's pretty active in their everything that they do. So offensively, they're solid, and you know, the people that I had mentioned are up there. Those are the playmakers on offense. Defensively, they're a defense that has only given up 14.5 points per game after 4 games, which is pretty impressive. They're very solid. They're not going to make many mistakes. They have some marquee players coming back that I think have been playing in the league a very long time. Obaseki, their defensive lineman, 92. He's their playmaker up front. Very athletic, has been an all-conference player for a couple years. He's a guy that we need to be aware of. They have 2 of their 3 linebackers back from last year, Jacoby Washington and Aaron Archie. Both those guys have been playing a lot of football during their time at Indiana State. They're good. They're very athletic. They can cover sideline to sideline, and they're pretty good with tackling. And in the secondary, the returning starters from last year, Larry King and Calvin Burnett, again, that gives them some experience in the secondary, and these guys, again, are capable of making plays on you. So defensively, I think they're very solid, and they're capable of giving us some difficult matchups. On the special teams, they're very good. Right now, their kicker, Fritzley, is 7 for 8 on field goals, perfect with his PATs. He may be, one of the better kickers in the league at this point in time. He's just a sophomore, so he's kind of establishing his reputation. But their punter, he also plays baseball, as you can see there. I couldn't find a football picture of him anywhere on the internet, but Heilman, who's from Anna Jonesboro, he's real good. He's an athlete, and I saw something somewhere that he was even taking quarterback reps in pre-fall at one point in time. So, but his leg strength is probably as good as there is in the league. He's averaging 42.6 per punt right now. So their special teams are pretty impressive with their kickers. So, questions?
I think the question of the day is, how did South Dakota State stop Bell?
Well, South Dakota State, very solid on defense, and
They just played them straight up. They didn't have some.
there was no special, nothing, and that's just it. You can't, anytime that you overcompensate, you're going to give something else up. And South Dakota State had a very blue-collar game plan, nothing fancy, just lined up, was very aggressive up front. I would say that if in that matchup, South Dakota State's defensive line gave Indiana State's offensive lines some issues. So there's a lot of times there was penetration, but they had a lot of people at the point of attack. They didn't give up any weaknesses in the secondary by overcompensating. It was just a pretty solid defensive game plan by South Dakota State.
Did South Dakota State run a four-man line, or did they have a 3-4?
No, they're a 4-man front.
4-man.
Yep. Yep.
So you obviously had some success defensively up front last year against them. You feel like you can have some success again this weekend?
Well, we got to play our game. I think that's always important, that you don't try to be someone that you're not, or try to Just because one team has had success doing something, you don't want to be a copycat and try to do exactly what they do, because that's not your personality. So we'll do what we like going up against teams with two tights. We like going up against teams with a 21 personnel, which is two backs, tight end type. So that's kind of what this defense has been designed through the years too, to be strong against. But with Bell, what they're looking for is just that one play to bust it. Now, Zenner for South Dakota State, he had an impressive day, but he had 150 yards on 2 carries. So his stats all of a sudden look pretty impressive, where South Indiana State did not. They did a pretty good job defending him most of the game. In fact, South Dakota State had 7 3-and-outs during the course of the game, so they were punting the ball quite a bit. It was just a couple big plays that got Indiana State into trouble, and then playing catch-up ball.
How have you seen Shakir Bell take his game to another level this year, even more so than last year?
Well, he was pretty impressive last year. I mean, I can't say he's at another level. I'd say he's at the same level. He's just capable of making a big play, and that is a key for their offense, is the big play threat. And also, if you try to if you're over aggressive on Bell, then the pass will get you. And looking at the film, some of the other teams, that's what got the other teams in trouble. Just some simple play action. Next thing you know, there's a receiver running wide open down the middle of the field, and you've just given up a long touchdown pass. So you have to be very disciplined. You have to be good with your tackling. You got to get as many people to the ball carrier as possible. All those things you talk about on defense, but you have to do that against a quality running back like Bell.
Have you seen them get Bell more involved in their pass game this year?
He's also, if you're looking at his receptions, I think he's 4th on the total reception. So especially just little swing passes out of the backfield where they're just trying to get him in open space and let him go to work. So that's something. Screens, they do a good job working the screen game to him. So they're well coached. They know how to take advantage of things that defenses will do to try to take him out.
You guys have won 9 straight over Indiana State. What has made the rivalry between you guys so one-sided?
No idea. I'm just worried about this game. That it has nothing to do with previous years or anything else. So this one is all about this year.
You've obviously tackled a lot better this year. How well do you feel like you've tackled when you look at your own team, and how important is that going to be this weekend, trying to find him in space?
Well, that will be very key, and it's just every week you got new challenges. Every team we play are going to have playmakers, and what will determine your success defensively a lot of times will be your ability to tackle. So when we've done well, we've been very efficient with our tackling percentage. When we've struggled defensively, a lot of times it just comes down to not making the play when we're at the point of attack, and so that is a key concept in defense.
Execution-wise, what were you able to determine were the biggest hang-ups Saturday offensively?
Probably overall, we needed to be a little more aggressive. I think we got to a point where, and this happens with teams, we came off of a big week. In the Missouri State game, we got off to a quick start, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, we had about 3 series where we're struggling, and then it's going into halftime, and you get into a bad rhythm, and that was probably more than anything else what we were trying to overcome, was just the rhythm of the offense wasn't there. When we did do something, we would have a penalty then that would negate it, and those are things you got to learn how to overcome, and we weren't able to overcome that at the level we would have liked. Now the positive was we didn't panic. We didn't try to force something that wasn't there. We didn't turn the football over. We didn't put our defense in bad situations. So there are times when even though you may struggle, you got to be smart in how you play the game offensively. And if we take anything positive out of that, that's what we took out of it.
When you say more aggressive, do you mean in the play calling or the game plan?
Just kind of, yeah, more aggressive in the execution of the plays. And, you know, when you talk about bad rhythm, that's when it becomes very difficult as a coach to even call the plays, because you're trying to find the right call, the perfect call, but if you don't have a rhythm that you're going with, you're kind of grab bagging it. And that's where it's important, once you can get a couple first downs, get a feel for the game again, what you're doing well, you know, it becomes a lot easier to call the game at that point in time. So, so it was a combination of just, you know, we couldn't quite find our gel, and we struggled.
You used Mike Cole primarily as a blocking back a little bit more against Missouri State. You know, why was that, and we changed that this week?
Well, part of the package, and with Mike Cole, we do not want teams being able to just key on him. All right, so if he's in the backfield as a blocking back from time to time, now they'll probably be thinking it's pass, and then we are able to run. You know, so we're aware of the fact that teams are going to be aware of Michael Pruitt, so we got to make sure that we use him smart. There'll be times we'll be using him as the wideout. There'll be times that we'll just play him as a straight tight end. There's times when we can't put him in the backfield, have him motioning around. We're not losing anything by doing that with him. I think he's a good enough athlete to do all those things. It just makes him more diversified and more valuable to the offense.
You talked a lot the last couple weeks about confidence and swagger. And do you feel like this team, now that you have 2 wins, is at a point where they expect to win?
Well, that's still a work in progress. You know, I think this week is the next big challenge. You know, last week Indiana State was a top 25 team. You know, they got a lot of top players, have been getting a lot of publicity. You know, we got to see how we stack up. So, you know, it's a work in progress that we're working on, but, you know, we're making progress.
How did your offensive line grade out this week? What do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, if I had to give them a letter grade, which I don't do very often, I don't give out D's, but I give out C minuses. You know, I thought we were a little below average in what the expectation was.
Coach, is this another situation where you feel a little more confident in your defensive game plan because you know what the offense is going to try to do in the Indiana State?
One more time.
Well, you know what they're going to try to run, so you said you feel confident when you know.
Well, no, we got to be able to defend their, and the thing, watching them, and their stats are a little misleading because they look 50-50 run pass, but when they've needed to throw, they've thrown the ball. You know, when they've needed to run or had the ability to run at will, then they run the ball. You know, probably the best game for us to watch is their game with Indiana University, where they really had a good combination of both run and pass, really kept Indiana on their heels as far as trying to defend them. And, you know, that's the team that we got to be ready to defend.
Coach, you and Coach Miles kind of came into the league about the same time. What is it about him that has impressed you with turning around the program there, and what do you respect about him?
Well, Coach Miles, number one, he's a great person. He's, you know, you meet him and you immediately like him. He did it the right way. He was very patient with his turnaround. You know, he had to make some changes in culture at Indiana State. He did that. He was able to accomplish that to a point now where his players expect to win. They're good citizens. They're good representatives of the university, and I sound like I'm recruiting for Indiana State right now, so I don't want to say too much more, but you know, Coach Miles just did everything right the right way, so you know, he deserves a lot of credit.
What sort of quarterback is Parrish? Is he mobile? Is he a runner every so often, or is he just a drop back?
Well, he's capable of running, doesn't like to. He'd rather throw the ball, you know, so he'll hang in the pocket. And they've given up some sacks, and part of that is due that, you know, he likes to hang into the pocket as long as he possibly can. but I've also seen him break out of the pocket and outrun defensive players to the sideline. So, you know, he's a good athlete, but he looks to throw first.
Kicker-wise, Dale, is it time to give Chris Adams a shot?
Well, you know, again, I'm not going to talk about, you know, all the what-ifs with the kicking situation. So our two main field goal kickers are Jackson McLaughlin and Austin Johnson.
How much of a load is over Sept?
Well, he's good. He's a playmaker. You got to be aware of what side of the line he's lined up at. He's just one of those talented players that have been playing in the league for a long time. He's seen the best that this league has put out there, and you know, he's played up against it and done well against it. So, you know, he's just a guy that we need to be aware of.
Coach, coming into Saturday's game, the defense had given up a lot of red zone touchdowns and a couple big stops Saturday. Can you talk about just the maturation of the defense as far as the red zone goes?
Well, I think we're doing well with the red zone. I mean, that's something that we're forcing field goals. You know, especially you look at Saturday's game against Missouri State. You know, we make a stop, we rough the kicker, give them the ball again, and then we make a stop on a 4th and 3. You know, that's pretty good. I don't know if a year ago we would be able to do that. So, you know, I think we're getting better. You know, and the other score that we had too was holding a team to you know, Missouri State to their 2nd field goal. All situations where the opportunity for touchdowns potentially were there, but our guys made plays when they needed to. So, you know, that's the confidence that you're looking when your backs are up against the wall, that your players know they can step up and make it stop. So, and from my perspective too, you know, defense is where it starts. If you're playing good defense, you're going to give yourself a shot in every game.
Will we be using the same philosophy as far as keeping receivers in front of us, or will we be putting on more pressure this week, or a little both?
Well, they're, again, a different team. You know, they're not going to be in the spread formation as much. So when I talk about the philosophy of keeping the receivers in front of us, that's usually when we're talking about a 4-receiver set, 5-receiver set, where you're trying to keep everyone sorted out and know where everybody's at. A lot of the routes now that we got to be careful with are the play actions. You know, those are the ones that can get behind us. Those are the ones that are the quick scores. You know, so with play action, you can't be too soft, otherwise you're never going to stop the run. But you just have to be very assignment sharp and be able to recognize your keys.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.